Deleted Station, July 2nd, 1977. Good evening. Comments. This may sound very simple, but perhaps at times you forget. People show their main characteristics very early in life. They make multitudinous minute decisions at a much earlier age than is believed, as their own natures seek expression, and as those natures interact with the mental, emotional, and physical environment of the times in which they were born. Through the years, the personality, for example, tries different methods of interrelating, while the overall characteristics are still maintained. You had your fling relating to your times, and of speaking to them. When you were a cartoonist, you used your artistic abilities. You enjoyed the work. To an extent, you reached millions, and as a young man, for a while, your beliefs, ideas, and artistic ability merged at one level. You moved out of that level. Millions of people consider that the ordinary accepted mode of existence. The storylines that went with those cartoons amused the people. You did your best to illustrate those stories. You could have stayed in the field, but even from the beginning, you knew it was a transitory part of your development. Many novelists, say, of some considerable ability in writing, flesh out those same stories with characters only a bit more mature and are considered quite serious artists. But you did have a fling at meeting your times directly and of reaping those rewards. Personally, socially, and financially, your parents were pleased. That was an acceptable way of using your abilities, but your adolescent mentality was the usual adult mentality, and so you grew out of the framework. Through his art, Rupert never had that sense of fitting with the times, or of receiving its ordinary recognition. In any of these discussions, however, remember I am specifying certain important points, for there are, again, many realities, in terms of mental, philosophic, aesthetic, and artistic terms. However, you each decided to go ahead even if it meant leaving your times behind. This was not one decision, but involved multitudinous small issues in your lives from childhood on, and represents aspects of your personalities that you must recognize and honor. When I say honor, I mean that it is futile to wish your natures were other than they are. Give us a moment. You moved through belief systems, becoming to some extent disillusioned. You looked at the world and could no longer accept many of the basic beliefs upon which its fabric is socially founded. Many of the people who read my books are also disillusioned with the world's beliefs. They have been brought up to believe in authority, yet they realize that the authorities know far less than they originally supposed. They are afraid, however, of going out on their own, so to speak, and many are involved in lives that have been built upon past beliefs. They do not tread themselves. They do not have the stamina or the resoluteness, however, yet to face a reality in which they are the creators of their circumstances. They no longer treat religion or science in organizational terms. If they read Rupert's books, they must accept the fact that Rupert, as a woman without the world's credentials, will dare to follow the dictates of the inner self, and this makes the entire affair more frightening to them to a degree. The two of you are, after all, people, they think, and since they distract themselves, they cannot really understand how the two of you treat yourselves as much as you do. They use my opinion as a substitute for the authority they are trying to give up. They think if I had a set I too would progress, and so forth. They are afraid of vulnerability. They are between the comic book world and your own. They yearn for an authority they can trust. Rupert's books show that it is not all that easy in their turns. They want to believe that he depends upon me to make all his decisions, and they do not want to hear about his independent thinking. They are between dependence and independence, at the level of which I am speaking. Give us a moment. My work is in a way more direct than Rupert's. It appeals to many levels of the psyche at once. It can be interpreted at many depths. From the comic book reader to the scholar, each will find a point of contact within my work. The comic book reader will interpret it in his own way, and perhaps I will emerge as a super soul instead of a superman. Rob noted with humor. They said, you have to be fairly intellectual to read Rupert's books. You think my books require much effort, and people often say so. Yet you get letters from people who are nearly illiterate. This is nothing against Rupert's books, for they are excellent, but people become frightened sometimes because they do not want to compare themselves to Rupert. They want to think that I spring automatically into your lives as Superman. They did not question Superman. Only a simple change of clothing was required for our hero, Mr. Kent. They want to endow me with an authority that will make up for the authority they are trying to be free of. They do not want Rupert's inquiring mind to intrude. What comic book reader wants to bother with a Clark Kent, who, before his transformation, distracts the reader with such beside-the-point questions as what am I doing? How do I, a mere mortal, suddenly turn into Superman? Is this mission necessary? At what point am I me? When does the transformation occur? What are my motives? What is the nature of the reality that lets this miracle occur? Or worse, what comic book readers want Clark Kent to shout out from the phone booth? Or wherever you can do this too, or your version, because we all have a reality in which we are Clark Kent and Superman at one and at the same time. Such people simply want Superman to perform his miracles. They want to keep Clark Kent and Superman entirely separate on a mental, psychical, and physical basis, and only in the terms of our knowledge, and in line with our discussion. I become a super soul rather than Superman. They do not want my authority questioned. For one thing, they are tired of questioning. They think that if they had their own super soul, they would have far better sense than Rupert, and they would use me as if I were a magic genie. They are afraid Rupert might go too far and question me out of existence, for they do not understand that Rupert's questions and your own, your sense of integrity, are partially responsible for a Superman rather than a super mouse. Because of my source, I can appear to many levels at once. To some extent also, people do not want to be told by one of their own kind of their failures, even if these are only implied. They would much prefer to think of him, Ralph noted, Rupert, sees it as a sweet, passive, and spiritual channel, the figurative phone booth. Some people purposely will not read his works. They do not want his comments, where yours are acceptable. Rupert's performance is in direct opposition to the spiritualistic tradition of women as mediums, who simply took down or spoke the sacred words. Give us a moment. To an important extent, you disdain the opinions of your age, of your times. At the same time, to some extent, you act as if you court them. You purposefully go against the conventions and beliefs of your times. You even stay out of the various underground movements that have some following and would embrace you. With all due regards, Ralph noted, amused. Say said, I speak to your fellow men and women in a certain democracy of spirit. I do not restrict my words or my works to those who in any way or turns may be considered stupid or dumb or greedy or incompetent or silly. My books carry no such prejudice, or they are addressed to those portions of the personality that exist inviolate. They are certain elements within the human personality that exist apart from any such terms. There is an area of being where a person simply is not intelligent or dumb, greedy or not greedy, where the essence of personality simply is. It is that level I address. To that degree, I have the advantage. At the same time, I work with a level of Ruber's personality that is his, that to some extent uses his knowledge of the world and its people, but I am far freer in my overall understanding and comprehension of people. I bear no human rancour. You see, Ralph noted with a smile. Say said, as Ruber to some extent must. Are you tired? Ralph said, you can go on for a while. Say said, if you want a break, then take it. Ralph said, no. Say said, now I have said this before, but it is of the utmost importance. Part of your stomach difficulty and part of Ruber's troubles result from poor habits. Often you are reacting to implied threats, either those you imagine in the future or remember from the past, so that you do not take the necessary comfort in the sense data of any given moment. You do not let your organism suitably relax enough in the moments of safety that the body requires. The imagined phrase then cuts down your feelings of security, adding anxieties for which the sense perceptions can directly find no reason. You imagine what might happen to future books. You do not suitably live in the present. This does not mean you need wear blinders, but when you are not suitably reacting to the validity of the present and immediate sense data, then to some extent you are putting on blinders of a different kind. The body is well equipped to handle the reality of the moment, and the reality at any given time holds a considerable amount of refreshment. Responding only to the stimuli immediately available will often alleviate the anxiety causing the stomach difficulty. I repeat what I said about Ruber's eyes. I suggest the hot towels be utilized. It does not help when you both reinforce your feelings of apartness from your society. It does not help when you make mental lists of society's stupidities and repeat them to each other. I do not want to alarm you, but your individual and joint condemnations of your fellows has a deep love for them, and it would help considerably if you understood this. Do not be blind to the good intents of your fellows. You judge them often by the difference between their intent and their performance. Do not make the mistake of becoming self-righteous. Practically speaking now, all of my suggestions should be followed, given in the last sessions, and they should be read again by each of you. The loving encouragement again is highly important, for here you must change habits, both of you, of conditioning. I do not think you believe me yet, but I must repeat, I am searching for a new way to explain this. Any improvements Ruber shows are considered insignificant, unimportant, or worse, deceptive. They are not trusted. They become lost. It is not that they are considered unimportant so much as they are considered to be not trustworthy. You are so afraid to translate either of you. Not only are they not taken advantage of then, but when they do not continue, this is taken as proof that they are deceptive. Give us a moment. The improvements then rouse anxiety. Rupert is afraid of disappointing himself and you as well if they do not continue. One or the other of you reinforce the idea of fate. The extraordinary energy is available. You have been afraid of really structuring the improvements, of really making an important effort, for fear that effort will fail. I will make more to say in that regard. On several occasions, however, in the past, you did learn to tread improvements, and Rupert made important strides. He is almost afraid of mentioning it when something works better. For example, I want this change. I will have much more to say at our next session. Take a break or end this one, as you prefer. That said, we'll take the break then. They said, I have more comments. Your ideas, individually and jointly, are innovative and daring. When Rupert shows an improvement of any kind, you both become cringing. You take it for granted that the improvement will not last, and is deceptive. You remember the last history of improvements that vanished. You are not daring, you are not innovative, you are not creative, either of you, in that area. You look for the improvement to disappear, each of you. You become anxious at its onset. Sometimes Rupert feels guilty at any improvement he feels on any given day because it seems too obvious that this is only a set-up for a future disappointment. Better not mention it and only disappoint himself. Obviously, your relationships with your bodies are highly vital, intimate. Those relationships also represent, however, the most natural aspects in certain regards, in which the self must rely upon that source that initially gave it life. The division of beliefs is therefore corporally written. It is of utmost importance that you do not consider Rupert's physical condition in terms of absolute ideals. Any improvements should be considered in the light of his own position. If he walks down his steps better, that should be noted and encouraged. Often, for example, he will think, big deal, so I can lift one foot now a little better than I did yesterday. In the light of normal walking, that is hardly significant, and he will become discouraged rather than encouraged, as he should be. That adds to anxiety, and the anxiety helps keep the position the same and brings about a helpless feeling in which nothing but an instant complete healing would be trusted. His head has been congested for a long time, the neck, jaw, sinus, eyes all being affected, and that condition began before any symptoms were noticeable. The sinus inhaler was a crunch. When he became nervous, he didn't breathe properly. His head became congested and he used the inhaler. The foot and finger reflexology is particularly stimulated all the areas of the head, activating various nerve passageways. Muscles in the head and neck area that had been held fairly rigid had to respond. The tissues of the feet have become a good deal more flexible, softer, resulting in a kind of massage that opened up nerve impulses that do affect the knees, eyes, and ears. The trouble with the left eye has to do with changes in the left leg and knee. The towers will help. The entire ear sinus area is changing. Congested passageways are opening. The eyes felt the change of pressure and congestion. This caused the initial eye difficulties and the unequal working of the eye muscles. Short periods of deep breathing will help, but mostly it is the confidence in his own body that is important. Otherwise, you have the anxiety of believing that any symptoms have the worst possible connotations, and that the body does not know what it is doing. Without my book, Rupert's book would not be the same. He would not have written them. It is impossible to say what he would have written. His books would not have shown the ability that they do now. However, none will do well. Most likely, it will be put out as one volume sometime in the future. It will be considered a textbook, however, and somewhat of a collector's item. I expect you to write your own book, and I believe you are too tenacious not to. You will think I will say my piece and it will serve them right, but you have been practicing to write it for some time now. Do you have other questions? Ross said, not until next time again. They said, then I bid you a fond good evening. Ross said, thank you, Seth. It's very interesting. They said, and take my suggestions, both of you, to heart. Tell Rupert to trust the physician within and the body's ancient wisdom. Ross said, good night, Seth.